I call this meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, I see a lot of faces in the audience tonight. Given that there are so many people here, we are going to request that everyone limit any public comment to 3 minutes so that everyone has a chance to speak. Also, you will need to be a resident of the township or a taxpayer in order to make comment tonight. So when you come up to the mic, please state your name and address. And the first item up is opportunities for questions and comments from the public, but I also want to note that later on in our council meeting, we will be discussing a noise ordinance. So if anyone has public comment related to that, you can hold that, and we can do that later in the session as it relates to the noise ordinance. Okay. Anyone who would like to come up and comment, please feel free to come up to the mic.
Good evening. Bill Daly, Horsham resident for 64 years. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here, as many people may be, because of the raising of the flag on Saturday for Pride. I have family members that are gay. I know people. I don't care who kisses who, boys, boys, girls, girls, boys, girls. It's great. I just don't think as a township, it's something we have to celebrate, right? So I don't celebrate because you don't know who I kiss, because I don't wear a t-shirt, I don't fly a flag, it's private. It's what I do in my house. It doesn't matter what the gender is. I don't want them at McGurk's sucking face next to my table. Doesn't matter who it is. It's private. And as a township, that's what we're going to celebrate. And where I'm disappointed with council is that's the best you can do. As far as I know, Mr. Walker may know better. I don't think we've ever flown a flag, which is, I assume it's going to fly with the American flag at the library because there is no other flagpole there, and it's a flag raising. So that's my assumption. We've never flown another flag with the American flag, and that's the best we can do. We're going to celebrate who people have sex with. We just had Police Memorial Week. We could have a flag for police officers that died in the line of duty in Horsham in Township or in the community. We have Veterans Day, Memorial Day. We could fly a flag for the men and women who died to protect this country. For the firefighters of Horsham, the ones who come out at 1 o'clock in the morning when your house is on fire, they leave their bed. We could fly a flag for them. Fly a flag for our teachers. The Horsham Rotary, who does so much for this community, we could fly their flag. But we're flying the pride flag. The other thing a little bothersome, and I won't mention the council person's name, but I had a very nice conversation with a member of council during election day, and one of the things we talked about was what the meaning of the pride flag was and what the colors represent, and the council person told me they didn't know what the colors mean. And that's disheartening, that you're going to fly a flag and a member of council doesn't know what it means. So that's what my concern is. If council's going to fly, was that my 3 minutes?
No.
Oh, I heard something.
Keep going. No.
I heard, if council's going to do something, the 5 of you should know what you're doing and what it means. If you're going to put something out there for all of Horsham to see, you guys should know what you're putting out there. And one of you don't. Maybe more, hopefully you all do now, because hopefully as council person said, hey, I spoke to someone and this came up. So again, that's my disappointment with council. Thank you.
That's interesting.
My name is Mark Zlotnick, 640 Cyril Drive in Horsham. So I ditto everything Mr. Daly just said, and I asked that a letter be passed on to council yesterday morning. I trust that you've all seen that and ready to comment. I'm ready here to defend my position, to request that the flag raising event be denied. I don't think it's the government's place to sort of market that kind of thing. It's not that I don't tolerate the gay community, but I don't endorse its marketing. And so that's where I draw the line. And I can give you countless angles of judgment on that. And I'm going to ask you, my question that I posted in my letter was not a rhetorical question. I'm going to ask for anyone to comment on that. But let me first say that if the Pride flag event were denied, I'll ask who gets hurt, right? Who is it that feels attacked by the fact that it's not flown? And I think the answer to that is no one. But putting it there, raising it does provide an attack, or it's offensive to the Christians, to the Catholics and the Christians. In fact, see that book up at the top? It says Holy Bible right on the Horsham shield. I guess Sam Carpenter had something to do with that. Okay, and so that's the kind of thing we should be promoting as a government, as a township. Okay, again, I tolerate it, but I don't want it to be promoted as something that's mainstream, because it's not. So put the motto to the test, community connected. Okay, I don't think raising the flag is promoting a connection among the community. It's divisive, in my opinion. So can anybody answer the questions that I posed in my letter?
I forgot to say when we opened and I asked everyone to keep their remarks at 3 minutes, that council is not going to be commenting on any of the public comments.
Okay, so just so people will know here, what I posted was, if I were to request that a white solid flag with the black bold letters that said one word, freedom, okay, would the community endorse that flag being raised at the library? And let me remind you that the word freedom was on Charlie Kirk's shirt when he was brutally assassinated. So who here would have any objections to that? Or how about a pro-life flag? Okay, one does exist. How about we post that? Would anybody have any objection to life? Okay, so that's where I come from, and I don't blame you for not answering. Okay, thanks.
As I do think I need to bring up an important point here for purposes of constitutional protections, that this flag issue is not an issue that was brought at a request. I heard some comments that someone requested this flag, or that a request be denied. And for I think it's important for the public and the record to know this was not made pursuant to a request, that this is pure governmental speech that was action taken, or proposed to be taken by council, and not because of a request to do it.
Good evening. My name is Dan Flynn. I'm a 30-plus year Horsham Township resident. I live at 1003 Kingstown Court. And I really wasn't prepared to speak today, but I feel like I do want to support both the statements that Bill and this gentleman made. And my main comment would be, I have no objection to anyone in this room flying that flag on their own personal property. But to support it, or to act like it's being supported by the government, I think, I know I object to that. So that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
I'm going to raise this real quick here if I could. Andy Starr, Langdon Avenue, 27-year Horsham resident. Today I rise in opposition to the flying of the Pride flag at the Horsham Library. Indoctrinated supporters will claim this is about inclusion. In reality, Pride is a cult, and as with all cults, it employs recruitment and indoctrination. But this cult in particular is much more sinister, as it preys on the most innocent, our children. Pride scrambles the minds of our children in order to reach its evil endgame, the destruction of the sacred nuclear family. We are coming for your children. We are coming for your children. That is the deranged slogan for many activists under the Pride umbrella, but it is far from hyperbolic. My family lived the horror of this cult as one of my children was constantly bombarded and finally fell victim to this recruitment and indoctrination right here at Hatboro High School. It started instantly enough, the changing of the name, the clothes, and the opposite gender, all whilst being nurtured by school administrators and teachers. Then the mental instability set in, the dramatic drop in school grades and withdrawal, finally culminating in self-harm and suicidal thoughts. The mental anguish endured by our family during this ordeal was overwhelming, and it took years of therapy to bring our child back. Many years later, we still deal with emotional scars reminiscent of this attack. Thousands of parents have similar stories of the horror that has decimated their children and families. All this dramatically changed my outlook of passiveness and acceptance of pride to one of anger towards those that push this crap on our children. I'll remind council that governments were enacted to protect individual liberty, not to recognize one group over another, and certainly not to become state sponsors of a cult. Choosing the library was not by accident, as it is frequented by children who are the primary targets. But you are more than welcome to celebrate this cult any way you want at home. You can raise a flag, indoctrinate your children, or even petition to mutilate their genitals, and for that, you have reserved a special spot in hell. As you can see, we are sick and tired of having this crap rammed down our throats. Horsham Council needs to remain neutral and abandon any pretense of supporting one group over another. Council needs to recognize that this cult has done harm to the mental stability of our children, and Council needs to decide if they are coming for our children. Thank you.
I don't know how to move this down, and I'm short, so. Thank you. Oh, that's easy, thank you. I'm Liz Granahan, 689 Man Road in Horsham. I'm grateful for the council. I'm against everything that everyone just said here, and I'm grateful for the council for raising the flag and for promoting inclusion and human dignity that flag represents to me, and I know a lot of this community. I have a queer child in our community, and we have always felt welcome here, and a lot of that is the things that the town does. The signature in every teacher's email, the school has the pride heart in it. My kid has been welcome. I'm thrilled that we're not in Bucks County, which is always, or not always been as inclusive. The raising of the flag only helps my child feel more connected to the community and accepted, and promotes his social, or his confidence and acceptance in this community. So thank you. I think it's very important, and I appreciate you all doing this.
Brendan McVeigh, I live on Windmere Drive. I am going to be commenting on the noise ordinance, but I couldn't let this go without commenting. All the people that are against the pride flag, I want you to go home and I want you to YouTube Shane Vaughn. I want you to Joel Webbin. I want you to Douglas Wilson. YouTube those people and tell me that pride is a cult. Thank you very much.
Oh, Lizzie, that broke me. My name is Jen Goldberg. I am a Horsham resident on 723 Inverness Drive. I could stand in front of all of you and give you my actual credentials of why I am, able to stand in front of this community and speak to the importance of raising a pride flag here. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I have a master's in education. I have 20 plus years of working with adolescents, but I'm not here to do that. I'm here to speak as a resident and as somebody who is a part of this community. I've lived here for 10 years. My children attend the public schools here, participate in the events in this community, and it has always been a wonderful place to live. This is a place that when I came here, I learned how proud people are to be from here. If they live here, they're so happy to say that they are Horsham residents. And if you got to grow up here, oh my goodness, the pride is even more so. One of the things that I've learned in being a resident here is that our difference of backgrounds and experiences are what makes us great. Horsham Pride is a way of supporting those neighbors, business owners, and friends who are LGBT. Those folks should not have to stand here and defend themselves and their very existence. The intent of Pride is to facilitate belonging and acceptance. It is something that may feel lacking in this world right now, but it doesn't need to be lacking in Horsham. A Pride event shows our kids that they belong. LGBTQ plus kids are 4 to 5 times more likely to attempt suicide. 4 to 5 times more likely to attempt suicide. No child should feel that their life is not worth living. If raising a flag in Horsham, to answer the gentleman's question before, if it's harmful to anybody, it's harmful to the kids who don't see themselves, right? Who don't know that they are loved and accepted. And so if raising a flag here in Horsham saves just one life, just one, it's worth it. Thank you for your time. Council, thank you for doing this for our community. I am very grateful.
Good evening. I am Melissa Serrato. I am a Horsham resident, also the state representative that represents Horsham Township. I came here tonight to listen. I wanted to hear what people had to say. I heard that this could be a controversial topic, and I wanted to really understand what the viewpoints were. Part of my job every day is talking to people that disagree on different policy points and different things and different opinions. Raising the pride flag is not asking anyone to accept anything. It's telling the people that are part of the LGBTQ plus community that they have a place here, that there are people that will love them regardless. And that doesn't mean everyone's going to. And as my daughter said yesterday as we discussed this very topic, nobody has to go. Nobody is forced to go to the flag raising if it's not something they agree with and it's not something they support. We need to start being accepting of one another, regardless of our views. I can't tell you how many conversations start off in my office where people want to hate me simply because of how I'm registered or simply because they have a viewpoint of who I'm going to be and what I'm going to stand for. But I never turn away that conversation. I know that even though they walk in angry and hate-filled, they're going to take the time to hear me out, and I'm going to take the time to hear them out just as much. That's what this is about. This is about learning that people in our community don't have to be exactly like us for us to be decent human beings and accept them for who they are. It doesn't mean that you have to get up and celebrate, and you don't have to fly fireworks, and you don't have to show up at this flag raising. It's about just showing our community that we care about more than ourselves, about more than the things that we may understand or not understand. It's about the children that show up in the school and feel like they have no one to talk to. It's about knowing that heartbreak happens in our own families, that we don't decide who we're going to love. We don't get to make the decisions, but we're going to be there, and someone is going to be there to support us. Someone is going to stand by and let us know that we're cared about. Our children deserve that. Our community deserves that. If it's not something you support, then don't come. But I, for one, am very thankful. I'm thankful that my children get to grow up in a diverse community where they can learn that people may be different and they can still be friends. I'm excited to know that one of my kids' good friends' father disagrees with me on anything and everything I'll ever vote on, but that child's still welcome in my home every day, because that's what this is about. So thank you, Council.
Public comment tonight?
Hi, Cynthia Leadham, and I live at 550 Ellington Court, and this is my first council meeting, so I'm having a very interesting experience. So I did not prepare to speak today. I didn't think I would speak today, but I've just been moved to, and I haven't had to public speak since I retired. I've been a resident in the community for 26 years. Melissa, that was an amazing way to represent how we can all see different points of view and accept even if we don't agree. And that's really what I just wanted to emphasize. I could not possibly follow what you said, because you said everything that was just in my heart. But I will just add, I have a family member who, at the age of 3, he is born as a male, and really started discussing, that he felt like he was a female at the age of 3. So I don't follow the indoctrination part of it. My niece didn't, really want to have to deal with these types of challenges that she has to deal with, and that her daughter now has to deal with. It wasn't a choice. It was not an indoctrination. It was just the way things happened genetically and the way she was born. And to think that the community would not support that and just let people be. Someone said, who is this going to hurt if we don't do it? Well, who's it going to hurt if we do? It's not going to hurt anyone. And like you said, you don't need to show up. You don't need to go. You don't have to agree, but just accepting one another, and that we can be respectful of one another and not be afraid of it. Because I have other friends that work in the medical community who say the same thing about the suicide rates and the mental instability that's caused when you feel like you aren't accepted. So I'm just echoing the points, but I just wanted to reinforce it because I want more voices to be heard and put power behind it. Thank you.
A comment tonight. You saw a lot of notes.
I had some things prepared if it felt needed, but so many people spoke so eloquently and shared a variety of perspectives, and I appreciate people coming out tonight to share those perspectives, regardless of if they were in support or against. That's not the point to me. I appreciate hearing from our residents, our constituents. We are here to represent you, and I hope that we do our due diligence in doing so. Mr. Walko did mention there is a misinterpretation of a flyer that was shared online that was then decided that this is coming from a student group. I just wanted to clarify that it is not. It is coming from council, and we appointed an ad hoc committee to plan the event. They've done a beautiful job of getting this off the ground, in my opinion. We do have student representation as part of that ad hoc committee group. Intentionally, we want to empower voices of all ages to have representation at events such as this and others. And what we learned in the process was that the student group at the high school could benefit from having some financial support to have future events. And that is why the fundraising, any that might occur as a part of this event, will directly support that group. So that's what is stated at the bottom of the flyer. This is a council-sponsored event. The school district did not, I'm not saying they wouldn't, but this is not coming from them. I don't want others to receive, slings and arrows as a result of this. This is us. We own that. Thank you.
All right. Well, with the public comment portion closed, we will move on in our agenda. So next on the list is the approval of the list of checks.
I move to approve the list of checks and all funds made from May 21st, 2026 to May 27th, 2026 in the amount of $657,717.41, and further move to authorize payment of the same.
Second.
Moved in second. This is a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Next up is to announce that there are no new zoning hearing board applications to review for the month of June. So move on then. And the next item is to consider a resolution adopting the Horsham Township Emergency Operations Plan. Mr. Gilda Walker, do we need to?
Yeah, so as council knows, the township has always had an emergency operations plan. The state requires us to do an update when the majority of council is new. And that's really the only reason. So there is no change in the plan. We have the majority of council, 3 new members, and that requires us to adopt the new plan with the 3 new members.
Move to adopt the resolution as proposed, adopting the emergency operations plan, replacing the original plan of resolution 93-3.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. This is a roll call vote.
Mr. McCarty, how do you vote?
Aye.
Dr. Patterson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Thompson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Chunky, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Ms. Slaff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
So the next item on our agenda is to discuss a proposed noise ordinance. We do have a few copies printed out, so it will be displayed on the screen and we'll be walking through and reviewing in detail. But if anyone would like a hard copy, please let us. Dennis, where are they? Are they up here? I have them. There's a lot of papers up here, guys. There we go. They're all gone. Yep, good to proceed.
So we've been talking about a noise ordinance for a little while, about half a year, and what our solicitor has drafted up what I would refer to as a rough draft that he will go through and explain and have discussion about. And after tonight, what we really would like to get tonight is council's feedback, council's comments on it, anyone from the public. After tonight, the staff, which has not yet met, will meet to also comment on it. What we'd like to do as a time frame is get a final draft on your June 10th agenda for introduction. So we're in time crunch mode right now because it takes approximately 30 days thereafter to have a public hearing and consider it for adoption. So that would be July 8th, and at that point we're halfway through the summer. So we are in crunch time here. As you know, you have gotten, and we've always gotten some complaints about noise, but it's becoming more frequent. And this is why we're doing the noise ordinance, which, by the way, as you know, also most towns already have. So at this point, we'll turn it over to John, and he will walk through the ordinance. And I think, if it's okay with you, that you can just have an informal, stop, as John's going through it, just stop if there's questions. If people in the audience have questions and want to give feedback or comment too, you can, it just can be more informal. Just raise your hand if you have a comment as John is going through it.
I will open that up, John, just before you start, because we have a lot of new faces that are sticking around for the discussion. So just in case anyone is unfamiliar, we don't currently have a noise ordinance in Horsham, and so this is being considered to be put in place. There are a lot of repeated faces here who have been in support of the noise ordinance, so I especially request you, as well as anyone else in the audience, as we're going through, to please feel free to chime in along with all of us.
And for reference of the public, things that have been pointed out are that every municipality that surrounds us does currently have a noise ordinance. This is something that has put our police in a tough spot when there's a dispute and they have to come out and explain that there is no no follow-up, no enforcement arm of this currently. So we're hoping to both support our police when they need to respond to something and also support our residents in their ability to navigate what is and is not going to fall under this.
You could even just sit at the table the whole time, and then you have access to a microphone.
If you stand right next to Scott, he might be able to pick it up there. I don't know.
My neighbor Chris and I originally brought this to the council this year because we have indirectly been affected by this by a neighbor who refuses to play her music at a lower level, even put earphones in or put headphones in. She says, I don't live in Florida, have them close their windows or doors. He has young children. When he has approached her about it, she said, shut your fucking windows. I don't give a fuck. That's her approach. I've told the council, this is not about neighbors having a party, hey, you want ice? Can I go get anything? These are people that you approach them and they yell at you because they are selfish, thoughtless individuals. They know exactly what they're doing. She's playing a speaker aimed at our house. Yesterday he could hear a bass all throughout his house. And when I approach her, she's going to raise that gateway to hell she calls a mouth at me, and I'm going to go over there and I'm going to get like this to her, and that's not going to solve anything because that's what she wants. So what I'm going to do is do it legal. So me and my neighbor have really put the horses behind this because, again, it's not about having a party. It's when I'm having a meeting and I have my window open or I can't even sleep on my back patio and I go, can you put the window down? Can you turn your music down? Can you put earphones in, headphones in? She's going to raise her voice? Are you kidding me? So this is what it's really all about. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. Okay?
Have you read this? Because it does talk about music at a party. You read this, right?
Yes, but I'm sorry. No one's read this. This is the first time that we're
But if you're my neighbor and you're having a party and like one time, but like on a Tuesday at 10 o'clock and you're playing a speaker aimed at my house and you can easily put earphones in, that's what I'm talking about. Don't be selfish. Don't be thoughtless when people are working or sleeping or have babies. That's what this is all about. Thank you.
Mr. Walko.
Thank you very much. There were a couple, at least since my short time here, a couple different, obviously this gentleman and his neighbors have came in to express their displeasure, but there have been other noise issues related to both traffic and air conditioning units and cooking units going haywire. This is a proposed ordinance that I should say is nothing is unique. There is not a definition, there is not a provision in here that I sat down and wrote out completely new. These are taking provisions that I thought were the best of the best and that worked best for Horsham from a lot of the surrounding municipalities to bring them together to what I believe is a comprehensive ordinance that is more effective in addressing whatever noise issue may come before any of the neighbors here that they are seeking to be addressed. And I think it would be best if we go through the ordinance. It is a draft. There are actually highlighted areas that I would like to specifically discuss with council. And I think it's important for the public to understand that council has not, there has been no discussions with council on anything that you've seen up here. These are just sort of ballpark starting times, starting districts to try to get the conversation started. So I would anticipate that during going through this ordinance, there will be some discussions related to maybe some different time frames and different activities, and we can have those discussions, maybe to come to some sort of a consensus for revisions to be made to, again, start with different drafts on this. So if we could scroll down to the definitions section, I think is really where the important stuff starts. We are going to be creating a new chapter, the noise, we'll have a person of purpose sections. Most of these definitions are technical, and again, are taken from what I've seen in a lot of other municipalities related to definitions of decibel or LEQ, measurement instruments. And again, I think those are standards. I don't believe it's something that we need to discuss. But one of the issues I think is important and practical is the definition of daytime hours. And if you go down further a little bit more, there's also a definition of nighttime hours, which is the mirror image of that. You can see I've highlighted those times because those times are able to be changed. It's something that we need to figure out what's best as it relates to the rest of the ordinance, which we'll get to in a second. If there is a desire to create daytime weekday hours, daytime weekend hours, and reflective nighttime weekend or weekday hours, we can change that. We can create new definitions, make it a little bit more refined to the noises that we want to address. Please go for a little bit more. We do treat residential and non-residential districts a little bit different. So and if you can see, we've itemized the residential districts that this would apply to. I have learned from speaking with staff that the MR1 and the MR2 mixed-use districts are actual mixed-use residential districts, so I believe those would be included within a residential district. I'm going to make that revision. The town center district, again, there is residential there, but there's going to be some commercial there. Maybe that's something we treat differently, create different standards for that, but at this point, we would need to identify the noise limits in the TC district. Again, something for discussion tonight. The other definition worth noting is if you could go up a little bit more, is the definition of plainly audible. And this is something that I think is probably one of the most important aspects of this code. And I am going to, reading through this, defines plainly audible as any sound that can be clearly detected, tracked, or heard by a person with normal unaided hearing faculties. I think I'm going to make it a period there and get rid of a sound level of 60 decibels or more. I don't think that's necessary because that plainly audible standard has been upheld as an objective standard that can be used and enforced by a township police officer, and they give some examples of there. It's not just learning the words, but hearing, sort of, for example, the bass. Not having this standard has really what has been hampering the township to date, meaning in order to actually enforce an ordinance, you would have to have one of those fancy sound readers and have the police know how to use them and have it up to date, and then do a decibel reading to make sure that it is accurate. You'll see that for a lot of the common problems that face the residents, that is not something that will be necessary to have in these situations. It makes it easier for police to enforce, it makes it easier for residents to file their complaints. So those are the definitions. If we could come back to those, because I think it'll make more sense as we're going through the different provisions. Section 3 is just stating that the sections below are going to be considered excessive and therefore would be illegal under our ordinance. Subsection 4, maximum permissible sound pressure levels. Has 3 sections, A, B, C. There's also a D that we'll get to in a second. These are based upon those sound pressure levels that you'll see on the next page. A, related to residential properties, B, residential to non-residential properties, with a little leeway there, 7 to 5 decibels, if that reading comes up. And the way it states is that anytime during the day, you will not be able to have exceeding decibel readings coming off of your property, exceeding the levels that are on the chart on C. So if you want to go down to the chart on C, which is on the top there, I'm sorry. And again, I highlighted the 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., the daytime hours and the nighttime hours. And we can change that and separate that and clarify that. But you can see that we treat decibels different from a residential property and a non-residential property, meaning it's more expectation of a little bit more coming from non-residential properties, a little bit more louder during the daytime than at the nighttime. What would this be for? This would be generally for those sounds that aren't music, aren't drums, aren't anything that's too loud like work. This would be issues that mechanical equipment, generators, and it would be work during the day that is just too loud for the area. We'll get on to additional exceptions that are, or I should say, time limit restrictions. But no noise activity should be coming from a residential or non-residential area that exceeds those decibel limits with a little variation there during either the day or the night. Again, practically, I think the police will find a difficult time to enforce those unless they're able to actually get the decibel reader out and take that reading. But it's good to have, particularly if there's an ongoing problem, and certainly we want to have that in there for those situations that come up where it's not a plainly audible situation. Subsection D that you see there is actually a provision that's pre-existing in our zoning code right now under environmental resource protections, noise. And it addresses sort of ongoing decibel level sound wave restrictions that are already in place. Again, really impractical for the township to enforce, and nearly impossible to enforce with needing the proper measurement devices. However, we didn't want to conflict with zoning, so that's sort of an add-on to allow, to keep those restrictions in place. I think it's worth, at this point, maybe discussing the concept of nighttime and daytime hours. Again, I have 8 a.m. To 8 p.m., essentially, would be a time where it then changes, so you have to be quieter. There are the restrictions that we'll talk about later under subsection E that says during these times, you cannot do these certain activities. However, what this is important about is, for example, loading or unloading trucks, doing power, using power tools, operating, model aircrafts, collecting garbage, using recreational vehicles. If those are happening during the period of time that they're permitted to happen, how loud should we allow those to be? And again, I think the decibel levels chosen are standard, are common in other municipalities. But do we want someone to stop doing emergency work at 8 a.m. or not to start before 8 a.m.? Do they have to stop at 8 p.m.? We need to talk about that and also talk about the specific restrictions that we have on E, which are time restrictions. What we need to then do is then look at E, and then we can look at F. Very similar, but just the times are pushed back a little bit more under F for 8 to 7:30 a.m. during the weekdays. That's the same, but on the weekends, it's instead of 8 p.m., it's 11, and it still remains at 9. So really, the section of F is the idea of things that you on Friday nights and Saturday nights want to go a little bit longer, like playing music or having parties or doing outdoor dining or doing concerts or graduations. And, we can add or take things out, but we certainly want to not have someone wrap up a party at 8 p.m. on a Friday. Maybe some people do, but and again, if it's exceeding those high levels, that's the case. But otherwise, from a plainly audible standard, when do we not want to hear yelling or shouting or music playing across the property line on any given day? So,
Can I ask
discuss.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
So in section E, these items number 1 through 7 are not permitted in the evening hours, like full stop. Okay.
Correct.
And then during the daytime hours, they would then kick back to apply to the noise limits above or plainly audible as defined within.
Yes.
Okay.
So even if you were quietly mowing your lawn, you shouldn't be mowing your lawn for a certain hour.
And so the question now, or one of the questions is, do we want to define nighttime hours as 8 p.m. to 7:30 a.m.?
And perhaps create different hours for weekends. And it might be beneficial to think of some of these activities of different categories. There are your sort of work-related activities, the deliveries, the garbage trucks, the power tools. Then there are your lawnmowers and leaf blowers. But then there are your social activities like parties and block parties and concerts and yelling and singing and playing instruments, and then just general activities that maybe your neighbor does, like driving RVs and mini bikes and operating model aircrafts around outside. Certainly, I think there is a concern of council to make sure that work gets done, that you're not hampering workers to doing their jobs, particularly if they need to get started during the hot summer, or it might get dark later during the summer. Maybe you want to extend those, but still, you don't need to be flying your model aircraft at a certain amount of time outside. Again, these times have not been discussed by you or recommended by you. These are just sort of placeholders that I've highlighted to kind of get the discussion. And I would say, I did note under the loading and unloading of trucks, you currently have a provision that says 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. for convenience stores. So we could pull that out and say, yes, for convenience stores, we're going to keep the 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. Or we can amend that provision also to say be in line with this. I would recommend looking at this. I did subsection 6 for collecting and permitting collection of garbage, waste, or refuse and street sweeping activities. I'd probably recommend doing that as a standalone, pulling that out, because right now your current code provides 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. So again, your law right now does regulate garbage collection from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. And if that's been fine, we should keep that consistent. If you want to change that, we should change it in both.
In number 1, under section E, where it says these restrictions shall not apply to fuel deliveries, does that mean that fuel deliveries can take place in those overnight hours? Or is that?
That's the way it reads right now, yes.
Okay, thank you. That was my understanding.
And that would be like oil to your home delivery. Is that what you?
That's under the convenience store.
This is for a convenience store.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, so no, that would be more for the Wawa trucks filling up. Yeah.
Anybody else?
John, for E4, how do we define necessary to provide access to and from a property?
I think I'd say, except when necessary to provide
clear pedestrian or vehicular access to or from a property.
And I guess the idea is, and it would be the police that were going to enforce this, but if you have a tree that falls down and breaks, blocks your road or your driveway or your way in, you should be able to use a chainsaw to hack up that tree to, again, gain access to your property
without being concerned of any issues with
violating the noise ordinance.
And we also spoke in the past when there was a snow-related emergency that any emergency declaration would override some of these, that, when snow removal needs to happen in the middle of the night, it would continue to happen. And if there's a power outage and a generator needs to be on for you to have air conditioning in the summer, that would be allowable uses and reasonable.
There's express exemptions under 153.7, which we can go ahead to look at those if you'd like and come back. But under subsection 7 is a number of exemptions that say these activities are permitted whenever they need to be permitted. And some of those are preempted. For example, traffic noise is preempted by our Pennsylvania State Traffic Code, although we do reference that as a standard. But what you just mentioned, subsection 5 says noise created by emergency generators during a power outage. So that's it. Power's out, you can use your generator. Number 6 is just flat out noise associated with snow removal activity. So whether it's private or public, if it's a snow removal, it doesn't matter if there's an emergency declared or not. If you're removing snow,
you should be able to remove snow at that time.
We did have a resident come in with that express concern, though, because they lived across from a commercial, was it a commercial property that was doing the snow removal? But it was like 2
It was a commercial.
a.m.
Yeah, it was a commercial property, and because there was an emergency, if I understand correctly, because there was an emergency declaration in force at that time, they would have been okay.
Yeah.
But this particular commercial property landscaping crew tends to do things at very odd hours, and they cite that they've been told by them that it's because they do it after they're done other communities that have a noise ordinance. So during regular operations, they would then have to follow our timeframes as well and not finish Upper Dublin during normal operating hours and then head over to Horsham. So that would be a help, even if not during, that snow we had was crazy. That's never happening again.
Yeah, but I guess I wouldn't, exactly that.
That's challenge. It's challenging that example, because primarily what they were, I believe, what they were complaining about was the backup alarms on the equipment in the trucks, and we had the same thing. Our public works has the same thing. They plow through the night. We have 127 cul-de-sacs, and you had to back up and plow and back up and plow, and that one's challenging. But most of the time, during major snow events, that we do have a snow declaration in place. That would be an exemption, but
Other municipalities have snow, like, so say it was in that, like, made up example.
I think they were conflating two things. I think they'd been told that about like leaf blowing and weed whacking, and they applied it to the snow removal that they then experienced in the middle of the night. And not to throw off, but Mr. Zlotnick, it looked like you were ready to make a comment. We want anyone who has anything to say.
Okay, again, Mark Zlotnick, 640 Sorrel Drive. I kind of challenged your claim that there wasn't an ordinance, because I remember about 15 years ago, a developer by the name of Charles Gallup wanted to put a CarMax, a hotel, restaurant, and bank in what used to be the Golf Zone. When the plans were presented to zoning, they presented an estimated sound level generated by all that in the units of dBA. And I looked up the Horsham ordinance, and it was in units of dB. So given I did a little work with sound as an engineer, I was able to challenge the numbers, and while I presented that challenge to the zoning board, one of the fellows, he got out of his chair, leaned his palm on the table, leaned over, pointed at me, and said, "Oh, so what I did is I challenged, are you going to come out and check it? Like, is this a trust but verified?" And he says, "No, we're not going to verify it. We don't have, the means, the manpower, and the equipment to do that." So, and he says, "How do you think we keep the real estate taxes so low, right?" So I, unfortunately, didn't think at the time. I should have said, well, easily. Earned income tax, okay? That came out in mid to late 80s, and that's why. But he basically poo-pooed it, and they would have been able to do whatever they want, okay? So, and the other thing is I live behind C&C Ford, and for years I've been complaining about them using the alarm, the theft alarm, okay? So they label it the panic alarm. I think the manufacturer labels them theft alarms, but they use it to locate the cars. And I kid you not, like every 5 minutes there was a horn going off for many cycles as they walked the big lot to locate the car. And they wouldn't do anything about it until we found ourselves in this setting against the zoning board. And of course, when C&C wanted something, now they're going to, settle with me just to be able to keep the peace, right? So they put up some signs, but it curbed it a bit, but it hasn't stopped it. So I challenge the use of that device, okay? 25 years ago, they didn't even exist, and yet they operated as a car dealership. So I don't think they should be permitted to use that at all. It's an unintended device, creates a lot of noise, and it creates a noise of which I respond, because I'm thinking, oh, is that my car being robbed, right? So it's not just a benign nuance, it's significant. And I'd like to see it stop. So officially,
So there is a provision in here about unnecessary horn blowing. So I think.
Can we throw in malicious car alarm button hitting?
I don't think it's malicious.
Well, that you don't. But now you had initially said that you challenged that there was no noise ordinance. Zoning, I believe, like during land development, provisions can be put in place on certain businesses, but it is not part of our current zoning code in Horsham. And my understanding is that it was not previously. Is that accurate?
Noise?
That there has not been a noise ordinance in the past.
Around 1998, environmental resource protection noise ordinance was put in place.
Oh, okay, that's
Yeah,
helpful
I
to know.
looked it up. It was on the website.
Sure, sure.
Which, by the way, the website has a lot of obsolete information on it. You really need to update that with stuff.
But that is not a, I don't consider that a noise ordinance.
Okay.
That is, that was really put in place, because and that's why it's in the environmental resource protection ordinance, is to protect residential neighborhoods from industrial noises. So those companies, manufacturing plants, industrial uses, it was really meant to, that's why it was put in there, to protect residents' neighborhoods from industrial noises.
And that remains in this ordinance referenced under subsection D for that particular noise issue.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Did that answer your question?
I guess so. I just
Okay.
wanted
Clarification.
official that I'm officially complaining about that noise. I mean,
You
I don't
got
know if
it.
I have to fill out a form or what, but I mean, they need to be,
Well,
you know,
once
there needs
this
to be
noise
some.
ordinance is in place.
And you might know, I'm currently, I don't want to say fighting, but I have an issue with the light ordinance, because they changed all their lights to LED lights, and I, you know, it's unbelievable. My house lit up at night like you can't believe, and it's just not right. They shouldn't have been, and they did it without a permit. I confirmed that they had no permit to do all that light changing, and it's just not fair to the neighborhood, so, thank you.
Mr. Walker, what information can we provide to you to get council and audience?
Well, I just think, does council like the idea, does council like the idea of regulating car alarms? I mean, there are warning devices when your car alarm goes off, but the actual beeping.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that it's specifically related to car alarms. I just wanted to make sure we were getting you the answers that you need broadly for the noise ordinance.
I'm taking it in, and I can follow up.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
My name is Pat Dollarton. I'm currently at 17 Ember Lane, but I used to live at 513 Cyril Drive. And I support Mr. Zlotnick in this because we had a neighbor, when they first moved in, their car alarm went off because the temperature dropped overnight every morning, to where I really wanted to go over and shoot them, but I didn't. But it really was, I mean, it was so bad. And as far as the lights go, that's another thing. At the very least, they could put shields on those overhead lights of some kind to prevent it, because the neighborhood does swing right around that. You know, where Mr. Zlotnick lives, he is right in the line of fire of anything from the old golf course and CNC. So there should be some way to make them, you know, keep that light from bothering people. I've noticed when I'm driving at night, when people have, you know, whatever the lights are that they have, halon or something, it's horrible. You know what I mean? Like the lights in your eyes are pretty bad. So, but the thing with the house, I mean, you should be able to go to sleep in your house and not be like, what was it, Christmas vacation?
Okay. We'll revisit the lights.
That's kind of what he's getting, I can almost guarantee, right? So, there you go. Okay, that was
A very similar item, and I think I need to change where it says less to more. An exception is for warning devices operating continuously for 3 minutes, it should say, or more.
Mhm.
Is 3 minutes too long? I mean, if your car alarm should be 2, you know, for...
I mean, I think two is, yeah, I think that's fine. Ultimately, is someone going to get there in the time frame where it can be reported at, you know what I mean? If it's 2 minutes or 3 minutes, a police officer is still not going to get there in time to, if it's shut off by minute 4, do you know what I mean? Like, so how do we?
I do think that another point of this is that there is also language in here that discusses that if there are multiple people that complain about the same thing.
Okay.
There is a prima facie understanding that that is a violation. So that's under I. The noise of prohibited acts that disturb 2 or more residents who are in general agreement as to the times and durations of the noise and reside at separate residences located across the property line. Who again complain about the noise is prima facie evidence of a noise disturbance, which means that the police officer is then able to proceed on issuing a citation for that. Now, we would certainly need to have those people come in to, if there is an enforcement matter at district court, to say, yes, that I can testify that that noise happened. But the police officer could proceed with that if that's the case.
I have countless videos if you need to.
Or videos, or again, or videos, just something that the police officer, you know, would need prove the case. It's one thing to issue the citation, it's another one to prove the case. So that's what we need. I'm going to change that to 2.
Instead of 3.
And is that 2 minutes? I'm sorry, can I ask one follow-up question on the, on the car alarms? Is 2 minutes during the nighttime hours?
No, that's just
Anytime
an
of day.
exception in general.
So it could be.
So if it's under 2 minutes,
You can't complain about that being an issue.
And
if it's long, if it's longer, but there's an actual emergency, then it's fine. But if it just keeps going off, it lasts longer than 2 minutes.
But if it's 2 minutes,
You can't say, oh, what's a car alarm? It's exempt. It would then apply to the normal noise standards.
Right.
That would apply at that time.
So would you have to, if it has 2 people complaining that it was going off, 2 or more people complaining that it was going off during
I
noon?
think if you could
do we have to have a decibel on it also?
I think you could probably use the
Plainly audible? Okay, thank you. Sorry, thank you.
And if someone's car is being robbed, they would be exempt from being charged with, okay.
Andy Starr, Langdon Avenue. So I'm interested. I mean, we've all been aggravated by noises in the middle of the night and rude and inconsiderate neighbors, and unfortunately, that is a problem, and you will have that. But I'll ask counsel. As counsel, I mean, and including a solicitor who is using these numbers for dB and other noise measurements, have you actually had a chance to take a look and actually listen to those noises on those levels? And actually be able to put an ear to it and say, yeah, man, that's too loud. Or actually, you know what? Every time my child screams, he's at 90 dB. So, you know, to arbitrarily use a number without actually investigating it on your own and just passing an ordinance seems slightly, I'll be frank, irresponsible because you really don't know what you're voting on. And also, solicitor, if I may be so bold to say that anytime you reduce constraints in law, it becomes very subjective, and they can go either way when it comes to a court case. He said, she said is really not the best way when it comes to law. If you're going to pick a number, you need to stick with a number, and that way everybody's on the same page, because once you're not on the same page, that's when we start having issues.
And that's what we're doing. We're picking numbers.
Well, right. Oh, I understand that, but you had said at one point you're going to drop the dB, and you're just going to make it an audible thing, and well, that's an audible call, and sometimes that can get ugly.
The courts have found that the standard of a plainly audible standard, which is clearly detected, tracked, or heard by a person with
Just normal unaided hearing faculties is a objective standard, and if
that is heard across the property line, measured at the locations objectively set forward in the ordinance, that would be enough for a police officer to say that sound was plainly audible at this time, at this location, and therefore was a violation of this.
Solicitor, it's $500 for each offense.
And that
The baby cries, you're fined every night. But the point is that without having defined definitive definitions in an ordinance or any type of law, it can create issues. And lastly, that basically means I can't cut my lawn, I can't use my blower, I can't do any of that. I'm going to be breaking the law, and that's a $500 fine.
And we need to discuss the hours that those noises created from those activities would be acceptable in residential areas, yes.
Right.
And the decibels that you presented in table subsection C, I'm assuming that those didn't come from nowhere.
Correct.
That
First off, and I have measured those decibels through litigation over sound issues, and those are average. That there's probably 2 or 3 points deviations from multiple municipalities that are similarly situated
to Horsham Township throughout the area. That's what has worked. That's standard from similar noise ordinances.
And you can buy a very high-quality dB meter from Amazon for $25. I happen to have a couple. Thank you.
The good news is this is the very first presentation of this. No one is voting on anything. I do look forward to learning more and hearing examples of those decibel levels. And I believe our plan is to have a decibel reader with our police station that would be calibrated regularly. Is that correct?
It would need to be for it to be enforced.
Correct. Okay. Thank you.
I'm gonna call you guys out in the back. Do you have any comments or thoughts on daytime versus nighttime hours?
Let's keep it kid-friendly, Brendan, please.
Like, you know, do you got the video of the noise again?
Let me just.
So if we,
backyard at 10 o'clock.
Hey man, I get it, we all have
So,
problems like that.
that's-
But
but-
force it down everybody else's throat maybe a little bit.
But here's the thing, in my mind, if my neighbor next to me is having a party like he normally does on Memorial Day, I can, in my mind, I know, all right, that's, once in a while. But I just want to make sure that there's a way that this individual who is a district employee is aware that, how is this going to be communicated to the community? Because my idea was, if this is voted on, I wasn't going to wait for her to play loud music and me open my window and ask for her, because I know what the response was going to be. I was going to type it up that a noise ordinance has been put in place, just in case she doesn't know, and I was going to put it in her mailbox, and that was going to be my communication to her, so that when I hear it in my sunroom, clear as day, I can call the cops and be like, this individual is clearly understanding of what the rule is and premeditatedly is going out in her backyard and playing music that everyone can hear clear as day.
Now, let's use that as an example. So if there was a complaint about that noise being created in the middle of a Saturday afternoon, because it goes all day, it would have to exceed the decibel levels from the reading location, which would be 15 feet from the property line or 5 feet from the
When I got out of my
property.
car yesterday, I could hear it in the middle of my driveway.
So it would need to exceed that 75 for a daytime.
Correct.
In a residential
And I
area.
think there's a 5 variation that's provided.
So let's
there.
say 80.
Yes, and the police would have to be there to establish that for a violation to happen at that time. However, then, and this is what we can discuss, but right now, when should that music not be heard within his house on a weekday or on a weekend? And should it be 8 p.m. Should it during the weekdays, then 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday? When can she start cranking it up on the mornings? Can it be 7:30 during the weekday and then a little bit later because people like to sleep in on the weekends till 9? We need to figure out what those times are. And again, we can pull things aside for different sorts of nuisances, but we need to figure out what works for.
So then at 8 p.m., the plainly audible kicks in.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
It's just the utter thoughtlessness that I've never met someone like that in my life. That's why I'm like flabbergasted. I can't even get my words out. Like, can you please turn the music down? I'm trying to sleep. And you curse at someone?
So it sounds like during the daytime, they are, I don't know what 75 decibels sounds like. We can have a show and tell later. So it sounds like this individual, this neighbor, would likely be in violation of the decibel, but maybe, I don't know what our plans are for equipping our officers with a decibel reading and with a decibel reader and at what time frame. But it sounds like
There is one on record with Officer Larry who could hear it from where the driveway enters the power line trail. He entered the back and said, I can hear it from back there, and she yelled at him. She was like, is this low enough? Is this low enough?
I feel like what we would need to, do we have a decibel reader currently, or do we need to?
We don't, we would have to purchase one.
We'd have to purchase one. So would the plan be to purchase one? I know this is one specific situation, and this ordinance isn't being written only for you.
I
There are,
understand that.
multiple issues, and I think that it's probably good for our community at a baseline level to have something in place. But I also could see this as being retaliatory, right? Where we might be able to complain at night, and it would hit the plainly audible limit, and there could be a citation at that point. But until we have that decibel reader in hand, I can also see like a daytime retaliatory situation just getting worse, quite frankly. So I would also want to make sure that.
Yeah, we before we start enforcement, we'll have the equipment that we need.
Okay, excellent.
To the question of how the community will be notified if and when this is approved?
After this evening, I'll touch base with John, and what I would like to do is post a draft ordinance on our website, put it out through social media to allow anyone to comment on it with the deadline, because you're looking to introduce this June 10th, so we are under time constraints. And then after you do adopt it, which would be the earliest you could adopt it, would be July 8th, that we would put it out and we would educate our residents. We have a September newsletter. Our next newsletter goes out in September. So we will put it in there, educating the residents. We have multiple ways. Our weekly e-news, flyers. So we'll do our full 100% community outreach and education about the new noise ordinance.
And President Slaff referenced as a show and tell, I said I would love to have an experience where I understand the decibel levels of our neighboring communities. Could we partner with one that has a decibel reader already to get a better understanding in the distance and things like that, just so that we are picking those? I mean, I know the numbers are in place in other communities, so I'm not questioning them, but if the threshold should be any different or we're feeling differently about that.
Yeah, I know some of our staff has reached out to their colleagues in other towns already.
Okay.
To talk about their noise ordinances. So.
I think that would be helpful. Thank you.
So essentially, Mr. Walko, what we're saying is, do we think 7:30 is an acceptable time to allow within residential areas individuals to start loading and unloading trucks, mow their lawns, start on any home maintenance projects during the weekdays. Collecting of garbage, I think I'm fine with keeping that in the the different category.
I think we're going to pull out the exceptions for the garbage and for the convenience stores, just to keep that consistent.
Good. Yeah, okay, agreed. Yeah, that sounds good. And then operating of dirt bikes and other motorized recreational vehicles. I mean, I think 7:30 sounds like, because we're lumping all these together, and we did have, people could be wanting to mow the lawn at 7:30 or early-ish during the summer when it's hot, and your neighbors, I don't see any. Yes.
Golf courses.
I know. I'm with you, because I back up to them too.
Well,
They
it's stated
start
from the audience
earlier
as
than
golf
7:30,
courses
do they
start.
not? Correct?
Because they have tee times that start at 7.
Yeah, so are you saying you want to allow golf courses to start blow drying their lawns? That's what it sounds like to me from my windows prior to.
That is what they do.
So, I mean, but if we have this in place, they wouldn't be able to. I personally am fine with that, because I would love to not get woken up at 5 a.m. on Saturday.
I just, no.
Are there any golfers with more knowledge about that topic specifically?
And to be clear, we also have the 9 a.m. on weekends for the clemency of that as well, for discussion. So for golf.
Are for their maintenance, I think they're gonna need it earlier. Because they need to prepare for their tee time.
What time, Ms. Goldberg?
Can I get back to
you can get back to Mr. Walko.
I can find out.
I mean, I certainly can create a separate pull-out section for golf courses because of that.
I mean, quite frankly, I think that they operate a little too early now. So you're saying on a weekend it would be 9 a.m. I agree that if they usually start at 5 a.m., pushing them to 9 a.m. is probably not going to, the golfers are going to complain, right? Because then their golf course is not ready. But also, I don't personally think that 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m., whenever that time is appropriate, in my opinion.
This is very unknowledgeable, and I apologize in advance. Are there ways to work from the inside out? Like, I would imagine at the center of that golf course, the residents aren't necessarily hearing it, and if they're working outward, but yes, they are, you are.
Yeah, I think essentially that golf course
That is a choice
specifically
that you
wraps
made.
all around, right? Yeah.
Could we maybe, John, maybe put some language in there when you're talking about a residential golf community zoning area, or because some of our golf courses, Commonwealth, they don't border, they're not residential, they're not, so I want to be cautious too, because our golf courses are large swaths of open space, and we want to protect that open space and not put pressures upon the golf course, but also be fair to the residents. So I wonder if we can just.
We're there, you moved to this, right? That's the only thing I got, right?
I mean, I personally.
Now you want to shut the airport down? Sure. You're impinging.
If we're going longer, we got to go to the mic, and you know that.
I certainly think that golf courses, and I think it would be for all golf courses, because it's really, if it impacts a residential whether it's a community or there, could be adjusted. I mean, if you wanted to say 7 a.m. weekend and weekdays, we could do 7 a.m. If you wanted to do something earlier, we could do it just for golf courses for that specific use. Or not anything. I mean, this is one of the purposes of this meeting.
Just one more quick thing is, and I noticed it was a 15-foot from the property line. So typically when we were doing noise testing, it was a measured distance. One could argue that if you have a 15-foot property line, you're disproportionately affecting those possibly of lower income. So if I have 5 acres and I have 90 dB, you can't hear that on the other side of my property. But if you're parked right next to somebody else and you have 60 dB, you're going to hear it through 3 houses. So really the measurement should be based on an actual length as opposed to off the property line, because like I said, you could be disproportionately affecting those that have properties right next to each other. So this definitely does require more thought on how to be fair to everybody in Horsham.
Also 5 feet from a occupiable property, and then if there's a townhouse or any sort of shared wall, just hear it on the other side. Whatever's close or applicable.
Anything else we want to?
I mean, for my purposes, I think the definition of a daytime, nighttime hours seems like we should change that to make it consistent with what we would have in E. And it seems like we're going to need to change the definitions of daytime and nighttime hours to make them weekend, daytime, weekend, nighttime hours. And then also have whatever's in that chart be the same that's in E. What do we want to have in E just for general activities? And again, we talked about it, maybe pool and golf courses and having something them exempted. But in your run-of-the-mill situation where someone is, starting a contracting project at their house, or they're starting to do lawn care at their house, when is too early and when is too late to have that happen?
All right.
And tonight's not the end all either. We have time. You can digest some of this, digest some of the comments that you've heard, and give myself and John some feedback after tonight too.
And when do you need that feedback by to stay
Listen,
on the timeline?
I mean, I could wrap this up the day that it's motion to be advertised, or before it's sent in for advertisement. I know the staff would like to get together to discuss it, and that's only if you wanted to get it adopted as early as possible.
Was the 5th? Was it the 5th?
That would be your meeting packet, but really it could be as late as June 9th, the morning of June 10th.
We'll introduce it on the 10th.
Yeah, the 6:00 p.m. on the 10th.
I think the considerations of what I'm hearing are as follows. One, are there activities that we need to treat uniquely? And I think our code always has been treating garbage collection, convenience stores separately. There's language already in for those. I hear that there is a desire to add golf course activities onto that, but we don't have the time limit for that. If there are other activities like that we should have separate timeframes for, we would want to include that in here. So that's the first thing, what activities should be specifically adjusted to treat what they need to have for their operation. And quite frankly, for the benefit of the community, again, for having things that are in the convenience stores and having your trash picked up. The second is for just those general activities, what are the timeframes that you want to have on the weekdays and the weekends at the beginning and the end? Do you want to have later activities or sort of later time limits for certain activities like parties and noise and music, like things we've set in F, and how late that would be extra in addition to just mowing your lawn. And again, the concept is people shouldn't be mowing their lawn maybe at 9 o'clock, but they can have a party with music at 9 o'clock on a Friday night or Saturday night.
Okay. In our list of exceptions, in addition to convenience stores and garbage trucks, fuel delivery, I think should probably be called out because those can sometimes happen early.
For residential?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for what, I mean, they're in the neighborhood. Oh, really? Okay.
Residential oil delivery.
Would we want to proactively engage with maybe the GM, the Talamore, to discuss how it could affect their operation? Because I'm not talking close enough to it. Or is this something that we want to just decide without discussions with them?
We know most of all. Yes, we can reach out to them, and I'll do that.
I'm fine with that being, I am in alignment with that being pulled out separately. But I don't think it should be pulled out entirely, would be my position on that.
Yeah.
So if we can have a discussion and understand what would be reasonable for all parties involved.
I want to have standards that are supportive of our residents, but also aren't punitive to businesses that affect their business model as far as how they can schedule people throughout the day. Is tomorrow the staff meeting, or that's further out? Okay, because I think it would be helpful to get their perspective on the time question as well.
Yes.
To have that information from, historical perspective of activities through the township. Thank you.
Another activity is similar is outdoor dining. Again, and this would be outdoor dining, which should only be permitted in non-residential. So this isn't having your backyard patio. This is the business of having outdoor dining. Businesses have different hours of operation. Did you want to provide them with a later time to do outdoor dining during the week? Should they be 11 o'clock during the week instead of 9 or 8? And I think we are going to add language that if they obtained zoning relief, that zoning relief will apply, just to not create conflicts previously. But outdoor dining might be another pull out by maybe looking in to see when are outdoor dining activities closing up, because we don't want to restrict that from happening.
What does it relate to specifically with outdoor dining? Is it just noise of people being out there, or is it music associated with the outdoor? Like, how does that handle?
It would be both. I mean, music would be standalone from that activity. But just the dining activity itself. I mean, if it creates the noise. Right.
Yeah. I also think that, to your earlier point, I agree it probably makes sense to have something different on Friday and Saturdays within residential to allow for gatherings.
And we don't actually have to have outdoor dining at all. I mean, it's very, I think, reasonable to say, well, I don't care if people are just, what do we hear? People chewing food and dishes clinking. As long as we don't want to hear the music, but that's covered under the music.
Oh, gotcha.
So,
okay.
Again, that was something that's in some municipal ordinances. Doesn't have to be something that we have to have here.
Well, and I think, sorry, I'm going to get to, I think we want to encourage restaurants to come back to Horsham in some of our vacant areas, and if outdoor dining provisions help support that, I would want that to.
So maybe we want to remove outdoor dining from something that's regulated time-wise, because really what you care about is the noise, which would be covered under the playing of musical instruments or playing of radios, or just general yelling, shouting, whistling, or singing. I mean, if it's a boisterous bar, that would be under the yelling, shouting, or whistling. If there's a band playing or a DJ playing, that's covered under 1 or 2. And frankly, is it the same thing for what we have for 4? Concerts, block parties, graduations, wedding receptions, religious ceremonies, sporting, recreational activities, carnivals, festivals. Like, do we care? Again, these aren't ones that are put on by the township or the school district. Do we care if they're having those past a certain amount of time if they're not creating noise? And maybe you don't.
And that's something we'll also dive into at the staff meeting, because that is, when you talk about outdoor dining, it's a real balancing act, especially since the pandemic, and restaurants most of the time won't come unless they have an outdoor dining area since the pandemic. The other good news is people aren't drinking alcohol as much. So the consumption of alcohol is down, and our restaurants aren't open till 1 a.m., 2 a.m. They are closing at 10 p.m., 11 p.m. in Horsham. So, but it is something we have to look at. We do get calls almost every outdoor dining place, McGurk's, Los Serapi's up here. We've already had some residents concerned with our village zoning district that, you know, if restaurants come into the village, Prospectville Village, are they going to be noisy? So it is something we'll take a closer look at the staff level and see what best balance we can come up with.
Hi, Jen Wilson, Boulder Lane, also on the school board. So I think you mentioned that the school district activities are not impacted by this, because I do know, you know, our marching band does get very loud, and we have received complaints about that. They do practice until 9 p.m. So
There is an exemption for noise resulting from any athletic, recreational, or other outdoor activity from an official township, school district, or other organized league recognized by the township.
All right, cool.
And that's also related to, again, noise from festivals, fireworks, noisemakers, related to celebrations that are authorized by the township or the state or federal.
Question from anyone?
What I'll do is I can take this and, again, create a little bit better structure, work into some different options of the issues that came up today. And in the meantime, if council members could reach out to me individually with any feedback or pass along any feedback that you get from any constituents for my consideration, I can make a revised version of this, and I can bring it back before you, and we can have something ready for staff discussions as well.
Hey, a resident in the back that's been here before, Drew, right?
Yep.
Bruce? Yes. Do you guys have any questions? I know you're dealing with issues in your neighborhood. Any questions? You could also follow up with us after this evening. But we know your issues too, so.
Yes.
Hi, I live in Sawyer's Creek, 17 Ember Lane. Now, I know that our landscaping people exceed any limit, but I want them to keep landscaping. I mean, I'm willing to put cotton in my ears. I mean, I'm home all day, so I do hear. It's not that they come in too early or stay too late. It's just more the idea that they are very loud, but it's the machines. And because they're doing an entire, they're not just doing one house, they're doing an entire community. So
I know you would like a paper copy, so we will get you one, but they'll be okay.
there's an
They're
exception.
okay.
Okay, or whatever.
Thank you, Pat. All right, if anyone has any feedback that they want to share after you've had a chance to go home and think about it, please feel free to send that over to Mr. Gilderwalk.
That's right.
Or any of us. All of our emails can be found on the website.
Sorry, that was something that came up, and I did want to respond in your letter. If you click on our names on the Township Council page, that does connect to our emails, and I believe that is all updated. So one concern, this is completely unrelated to noise, I apologize for everyone else, but our email addresses are accessible there. Okay.
So with that wrapped up, I will announce that the next Horsham Township Council meeting will be held on Wednesday, June 10th at 6 p.m., where we may be introducing an ordinance at that time. And then to mark your calendars, we do have the Pride flag raising ceremony this Saturday, May 30th at noon at the library. And then next Saturday, June 6th, is Horsham Day, and the rain date is June 7th, but let's hope that that does not happen. Although there are some activities starting on the 5th, so check the township website for an updated list of all the Horsham Day activities. Okay, and with that,
Check in the, right, Dennis, the mail this week, or newsletter, so our Horsham Day edition newsletter will be out in the mail. Residents should start receiving it tomorrow. It has all the pages and maps of what you need to do for Horsham Day, what activities, where they're located, the time schedule, how the shuttle buses are working. So please take time to review that newsletter as you get it for Horsham Day.
And before we adjourn, I just want to extend our gratitude to our staff, Dennis, especially for everything you put together to organize Horsham Day, all of our public works staff who are on hand that day to help out on site, and other staff who are on site as well. It is incredible to see it back bigger and better than it was before. For anyone new to the community, we had 1 year off last year because our main site was under construction, essentially. But we are, so thrilled to have it back and grateful for all of your work. Thank you.
meeting adjourned.